Which island? Scary Night. Part 2. Oksana. Oksana woke up in the semi-darkness in the corner because her feet were stiff and the cold reeked through her body to the bone, and tried to get up, but to no avail. She flopped on the cold floor because she could not keep her feet, which did not obey at all. After waiting a while, she made another attempt and still managed to get to her feet. Blood rushed down, she felt a little dizzy and her eyes began to go dark. After I got used to it a little, my legs bled and gave me goosebumps, which made them go puffy. Her eyes gradually adapted, and the familiar picture of the gloomy room in which Oksana had been since yesterday returned. To come to her senses quickly, and to warm herself up, she began to walk back and forth, trying to put together in her mind the events that had happened to her piece by piece. Then the girl went to the door and rattled the latch, pretending to want to get out. There was silence in response. "Lurking creature," she said clearly in her ear, for she had no intention of coming out, for she knew that it might be a trap. Then the girl began to look through the cracks to see the situation outside, when after a while moonlight began to fall in, illuminating the ghastly, chilling room. All was quiet. After surveying the area, Oksana sat down on a stool facing the door and waited, herself not knowing what. There was a table and 4 stools in the room, some shelves with jars, which she did not dare to pick up, since they looked creepy because of the contents inside. Thus she sat for a long time until her waiting was interrupted by a noise. Someone jerked the door and then said, "Fuck, it's closed." Oksana became frightened, human or not human. Began to torment her thoughts. She went to the door and listened. Behind it someone was standing. "Gotcha." Heard a human voice at the door. "Oksana. What do you want, bitch?" shouted the man outside questioningly. Oksana ran up to the boarded-up window, through which you could see what was happening, and saw the picture. The maniac of today in rags was approaching the house. "Eat," he answered in that hoarse, distinctly demonic voice. "Let me in." "We have to let him in. What if he kills him? What if it's a trap?" Oksana began to think. "Who are you?" the man asked. You want to chat before you die?" the monster said teasingly. "And what makes you think you can kill me?" answered the man. "Ha ha ha. You're stupid, Maxim. The island is a labyrinth. There is no hiding and no escaping. Now you're going to die." After these words the creature rushed at Maxim, and Oksana's doubts were dispelled. She opened the door and shouted, "Come in now." And Maxim, without thinking, literally flew into the doorway, stumbled and collapsed on his back, and the door sharply slammed and there was a crack of a metal latch. A moment later a hail of blows fell on it. The creature was not pleased, for she had missed her lunch. "Phew, lucky," said Max. "You bet," replied Oksana. Suddenly the sounds behind the door fell silent and shuffling footsteps were heard. The creature walked along the house and occasionally peeked through the cracks of a boarded-up window. Then, after a while, the footsteps ceased and there was silence. The boys could only hear themselves breathing, sitting in silence and dreading every rustle, every sound. They sat in silence and listened, fearing the return of the monster. After a long wait, both fell asleep. They were awakened by a voice at the door. "Oksana, You're here, Anatoly spoke. Talek? She was surprised. Oksana, my love, I finally found you. Open up. Oksana cried with joy and ran to open the door. Maxim blocked her way. Stop. It's a trap. Fuck you. Go away. The girl became angry. Who's there? Are you all right, pet? Anatoly said. Hair? Oksana whispered in surprise. He didn't call me that. The girl began to reason out loud. Well, come on, open up, I'm worried. Anatoly continued. Maxim understood everything by the look on Oksana's face and said nothing, and they continued to stand there and listen. Oksana. After a long pause, Anatoly said. Open up. Angrily he repeated. Open the door. Oksana. Oksana. Open up for me. Open up. With each word the speech became more angry and rude, until there was no trace of Anatol's voice. I forgot all about you, Oksana. The fiend spoke in his true voice. And I killed your Anatoly, ha ha ha, and I'll kill you too. Do you know? Where is Dasha? Dasha, Daria, Dasheka. I like to play. Maxim. Maxim, why don't you say something? You left Kolya for Ivan? Open up, I won't touch you, the house for life. Fuck you. Maxim answered angrily. He 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 he. There was hysterical laughter. What is it? Daria's voice came from behind the door. Your friends are there. The creature replied gloatingly. Someone came to the window and began to see what was inside. The moonlight was shining on that person's face. It was clearly visible that it was Daria. Her eyes were glassy, as if she were looking out the window with a doll instead of a person, and her mouth was smeared with dried blood. Everything they saw sent shivers down the spine of the boys. Then the thing opened its mouth, trying to say something, but it let out a hysterical wheeze. Oksana cried with horror and said quietly, What have they done to her, creatures? And once a former friend continued to stand at the window, as if dead, looking inside her doll eyes, in which the reflected moonlight, creating a horrible, chilling picture, as if death itself looks through the window. Outside everything was quiet, the second monster had fallen silent, but what was Daria still stood by the window, making the boys' hearts shake with fear. So they sat there all night.